Hey, did you know that marketers use specific dark psychological principles to empty people of their wallets? Did you know that? If you have a local business, you can use some of these principles in an ethical way. And let's talk about it. Let's start out with infomercials. You know, these things have been around for years. They make hundreds of millions, billions of dollars running late night, middle of the night ads, selling stuff people absolutely don't need. And that brings up point number one. Most everything that everyone buys is something that we don't need. There was a study done that shows that 95% of the gross domestic product of Earth is made up of things people don't need. That's a whole conversation by itself, because sometimes people struggle selling their services or their goods or their products because they're like, well, people don't need it. I'll let them decide. The truth is that most everything that all of us buy is not technically a need. I mean, outside of basic food, basic shelter, and water, everything else is a luxury in a way. It's a want, not a need, right? So I hope over the next few minutes as we unpack some of these principles, you can apply them to your business or learn something. And here's the first thing people don't realize. A lot of infomercials run late at night. And the reason that marketers do this is because the decision fatigue throughout the day of the person watching the infomercial is high. And what that means is that their resistance to persuasion is at the lowest point of the day. Isn't that interesting? Think about it. When you wake up, you have to pick out what clothes you want to wear. You brush your teeth, you get in your car, you're navigating traffic, you're checking emails, you're making decisions, you're having meetings, and throughout the day, your battery, some people call it your willpower battery, goes down a little bit more, a little bit more. You're finally relaxing at the end of the day, and all of a sudden, some amazing infomercial for some revolutionary spaghetti strainer comes on the TV. And you don't need this. You know logically you don't need this, but somehow, some way, you get sucked into it. And if this has never happened to you, then you're a rare person, because humans are humans. We're triggered by certain things. We're going to go through a list to think about that are true in almost every infomercial. And it's not an accident that these marketers have a formula for it that makes billions of dollars. Typically, when an infomercial kicks off, you're going to notice that there's a lot of high energy. These people like Billy Mays or the Slap Chop guy or the ShamWow guy or all these people, they're a peculiar certain type of person. They have enthusiasm that's contagious. Now, you might say, yeah, but it's so cheesy. That's true. It can be cheesy, but it's like a radio transmitter of energy through the TV. And so you, in really, really low resistance mode, because you're tired, you start watching this guy who's full of life, right? Full of energy. They have the Britney Spears mic on the side of their head, and they're trying to sell some product that no one needs, but is mildly curious, right? And it's this energy that begins to change what's called your state. Tony Robbins talks a lot about state control, and there's real truth behind this. You know, for example, if you want to lose weight, or you want to make more money, or you want to better your life, the real trick is to change your state on the front end so that your behavior changes on the back end. Now, marketers know this. You know, one of Tony Robbins' quotes is that motion follows emotion. And I'll say that again so that you get this. Motion follows emotion. What does that mean? What it means is you don't need to try to get people to do stuff. First, you want to get them in the right state, meaning control or set the frame of a particular emotion. And then it's the emotion itself that compels people to do stuff. This is why a lot of people, including myself, struggle sometimes to lose weight. You know, for me, my weights went up and down. I've never been super fit for consistently years on end. And it's because I'm like waiting around, waiting to feel like working out instead of working out first, you know? So anyway, in these infomercials, what happens is your state will start to change, even though you don't notice it, because of the high energy, the enthusiasm, and it starts to warm you up on a subconscious level. And that's on purpose. And they maintain this high energy throughout the whole infomercial. You'll also notice with infomercials, they'll use celebrities oftentimes, and that's just to behave as a hook. It's to behave as a little bit of a trust factor, an authority play. And so you're watching someone you're familiar with or that you know, like, and trust to some extent. They have high energy. There's all these things happening. There's a live studio audience. You're tired. You don't even want to watch it, but you keep watching it because it's hooking you and rehooking you and rehooking you. And the people that design these infomercials, all of this is intentional. It's choreography. It's sales and marketing choreography. And, they're taking a human, kind of like a sheep, through this process to change their state, to set the frame, and do all these really interesting things. One of the things that they do is they have a live studio audience. And the reason they do that is to check the box called social proof. If you have a business, social proof is very powerful. And a live studio audience of social proof is like way better than most small business owners have. Most small businesses say, hey, we have 100 5-star Google reviews. And that's really good. It's not as good as a video of an actual homeowner saying, I give this company 5 stars. That's even better. But what's even better than that would be like a live studio audience that feels organic, that feels authentic, right? So they're maxing out the social proof part. Then, a lot of segments for infomercials are around 30 minutes long. And you'll notice that maybe around 7 or 12 minutes or whatever the number is, they get to the pitch. And then it kind of starts over, and then they get to the pitch again. And then it starts over and it gets to the pitch again. Now, they're not repeating themselves exactly, but they follow the same template. So most 30-minute infomercials or 1-hour infomercials are actually 3 little infomercials packed into one 30-minute spot. The reason they do that is because they know that humans have a short attention span, and no matter when you enter the broadcast, they're going to be able to hook you, rehook you, control your state, and set you up for the sale. And let's talk about that. How do they actually get money out of your wallet? How do they get you, who's a very logical, reasonable person, to actually get your credit card out and call a number or go on a website and buy a thing that you don't need? And if you think you're stronger than this, then you must think you're special, because the billions of dollars created from this comes from regular people, of which you are one and so am I. And it doesn't mean all of us buy everything, but we are all susceptible to these psychological triggers. The first one that you'll notice when they're setting up the pitch is called anchoring. And what they'll do is they'll start anchoring you in more than one way. They'll use a price anchor, right? You'll always notice this in all really high-level sales pitches where, let's say they're selling a new revolutionary spaghetti strainer or some kitchenware or something. They're going to start talking about how expensive other kitchenware is, right? Or how much it would cost to buy the 5 pieces of kitchenware that you need that this one thing could replace. Now, they didn't tell you the price yet that you have to pay for this, but what they do is they anchor you to, it would cost $325 to do just what this does. And they're doing that's a price anchor. The other way that they anchor you, though, is they anchor your pain. And what that means is they take the pain point of whatever using an old way of a spaghetti strainer would cause, like it could drip, maybe it's annoying, it could be a little messy, not a big deal, but they take that truly painful part of the old way and they greatly exaggerate it. This is my favorite part about infomercials. It's really funny. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We have countless examples because almost every infomercial does this, but they exaggerate how horrible it is to use the old type of spaghetti strainer, and they'll show a clip of a mom. Are you tired of spilling hot boiling water on your kids with your old spaghetti strainer? And she's stumbling through the kitchen and spaghetti's flying everywhere, and what they're anchoring you to is this exaggerated pain level and this exaggerated $300 price. Like you're gonna have to go buy these 5 other devices instead of this new revolutionary thing. Now, what's really interesting to point out here is that none of these things are technically, logically true. But because of the way that it's delivered, it feels subconsciously true. Here's a secret. Did you know that people actually love to buy stuff? A lot of small business owners struggle selling because they feel like they're convincing people. And people don't like to be convinced. They really don't. Who wants to be convinced? But people love to be persuaded. And they actually like to buy. Think about it for yourself. It's really fun to buy cool stuff. It's fun to buy things we don't need. It's a form of therapy, right? They call it retail therapy. People like to buy stuff. Even people that aren't wasteful, it's still fun to make a purchase. So what that means in the context of this video is that when you're watching an infomercial or you're watching a sales presentation, part of you, maybe even a subconscious part of you, is looking for a reason to justify the purchase. You want to be able to feel like you should buy the new revolutionary spaghetti strainer that you logically know you don't need, but you're looking for an emotional reason. And that's why anchoring is so important, right? Because most people consider themselves to be reasonable, responsible adults. And so a reasonable, responsible adult might not buy a spaghetti strainer, but, I don't want to spill boiling water on my kids, and, It's just ridiculous that I pay $300 and this does all of that. And we're building a story and a narrative in our head so that we can get excited about making a purchase, right? And it's this weird emotional roller coaster that's packed into like 7 minutes, repeated 3 times in a 30-minute infomercial spot. And so now let's move on past that. So you might have a celebrity, but you have a high energy host. He's an enthusiasm broadcaster, right? And so your decision fatigue is wiped out. Your willpower fatigue, your meter, your battery is gone, right? So you're kind of half asleep, you're half paying attention. You hear this positive energy. You see a smiling family. The happiness of the people doing this is greatly exaggerated. The pain of doing it is greatly exaggerated. They've anchored you to the alternative price of buying all these other things instead of this one thing. Then there's social proof. The live studio audience is telling testimonials how their marriage was saved because of the spaghetti strainer, right? And they paid off their debt because of the spaghetti strainer. And even though you logically know it's kind of ridiculous, it feels kind of good, because you're going to get a dopamine hit before bed, because you're going to make a purchase. But you still have a little bit of skepticism left. And so you'll notice when they get to the pitch, the structure of how they pitch, very important, because small business owners don't even do the portions of this, and they leave a lot of money on the table, is they do certain things. Like they use urgency, they use scarcity in almost all infomercials. You know, there's only so many units left. Call now, right? There's a countdown timer counting down to when this offer is going to expire. Now, logically, you know, this infomercial runs every night for 2 years, but it feels like I need to do it right now, and that's really important. So there's that, but then they take the product itself and they have one last big right hook. They take the product, they've anchored you to $300, and they talk about how you can get this for only $49.99. And then you're like, oh, okay, I think I'm gonna do it. I'm pretty sure I could see how I could use it. But then they hit you with the right hook and they say, but if you call right now, we're gonna give you 2 spaghetti strainers. And then you're like, what? 2 freaking awesome revolutionary spaghetti strainers? And your state is getting peaked out, right? You're almost in the buying state. You're almost excited to get the dopamine hit of buying the thing you don't need, which feels good. And then they throw in bonuses, right? And so what happens is it's like this domino that gets knocked over, where they've set the table through high energy and social proof and emotion, right? And your state starts to change. And the live studio audience with all the testimonials and all the things, then they greatly exaggerate the pain. They plant fear in you, like you're gonna destroy your children if you have the old spaghetti strainer, right? And so all this is happening without you realizing it. And then of course they double your order, they give you a bonus, there's a countdown timer, and next thing you know it, you're kind of secretly buying it. You don't want people to find out though, because you're almost embarrassed, but you're kind of excited, and you're checking your mail and you get your spaghetti strainer, only to realize you probably didn't need the spaghetti strainer, right? So the purpose of this video is to help you understand that everything is marketing and marketing is everything. And even if you're a logical person, you consider yourself a thinker and you're logical, you're 100% susceptible to this all the time. Some of my favorite comments on some of my YouTube videos are the people that say, this would never work on me. You put an infomercial in front of me, I'm not gonna do it. You see, these people that think that they're not susceptible are the most susceptible of all. Is that you? What are your thoughts? I'm curious what your thoughts are. I'm curious what your favorite infomercial product is. Have you ever bought something late night? Did you buy some weird thing? I have a couple of times. What did you buy? Was it worth it? Can you see this choreography? And if you are a small business owner that wants to make more money, how can you use some of these principles to enhance the stuff that you have to offer?